What if I told you that Annabeth didn't get her vision wrong? That the blood we saw wasn't a mistake, but a message. A warning not about death, but about evolution. Because the truth is, in the twisted world of Gen V, visions aren't predictions. They're revelations. Fractured reflections of what reality refuses to show us. So here's the real question. If Annabeth saw her sister Mary lying in blood, was it a tragedy or a transformation? Let's go deeper. Because this scene, hidden inside episode 7, might be the most prophetic clue the boys' universe has dropped yet. When Annabeth sees Marie lifeless eyes open, surrounded by floating blood, it looks like a vision of death. But pause. Zoom in mentally. The blood isn't hers. It's suspended. Alive, moving, listening. That isn't carnage, that's control. Marie's control. And here's the part the show doesn't tell you. Blood in this universe represents life force, memory, and submission. It's not random gore. It's the currency of power. Now imagine, what if Annabeth didn't see her sister's death? What if she saw her rebirth as the ultimate weapon, the one person capable of overthrowing both Vought and Godolkin's god complex? You know what's crazy? This show hides its biggest secrets not in dialogue, but in color, motion, and silence. The red of the blood, the pale white of Marie's skin, the way the sound fades right before we cut. That's not editing. That's storytelling through omission. And that's why I believe this scene is not a mistake. It's a foreshadowing of the apocalypse inside Gen V. But before we go too far, pause. If you're already feeling that rush of, wait, what if this is true? Hit that subscribe button right now, because the next few minutes might change how you see the boys' universe forever. Let's break the illusion. Annabeth's vision doesn't happen in a dream. It happens in a psychic mirror, a place where timelines overlap. You notice she flinches right before the blood rises. That's not fear. That's resonance. She's seeing the version of Marie that already exists, just in another layer of reality. And what if Godolkin knows that? Remember Cipher, the calm, manipulative presence who seems more scientist than monster. He's not just creating Supes. He's replicating consciousness. Think about it. Cypher's entire motive is perfection through pain. He trains Mary to her limits, watches her bleed, and studies the movement of her blood. But what if that's not training? What if that's data collection for something far worse? Creating a blood-based hive network with Marie as the prototype. And that brings us to the real twist. What if Marie isn't the savior, but the weapon? Because every time her powers spike, the world around her loses balance. Her control is parasitic. It feeds off fear, death, and guilt. And that's exactly what Godolkin thrives on. Annabeth's vision, the wrong prediction, might actually be the final experiment. Marie isn't dying. She's sensing. Her blood absorbing every scream, every drop of power, every ounce of life around her. And when she opens her eyes, it won't be Marie anymore. It'll be something new. Something beyond Supes. Something closer to divine. Now, let me throw a thought at you. What if this isn't just about Marie or Godolkin? What if this is about the origin of Homelander himself? Cipher literally says he created gods. Godolkin, god, kin, bloodline of gods. So if Marie becomes the next phase, she wouldn't just fight Homelander. She'd become his reflection. And that's the ultimate horror. Because what happens when a god meets their opposite? When purity meets bloodlust. When control meets chaos. There's one line nobody's paying attention to. When Annabeth told Marie, "You can't save everyone," she wasn't being cynical. She was being literal. Marie's powers only expand through destruction. The more she saves, the weaker she gets. But the moment she lets go of morality, she becomes unstoppable. So here's the forbidden question: did Annabeth lie to protect Marie? Or to protect the world from her? Because maybe the vision wasn't a warning for Marie. It was a warning about her. If you think that's too dark, just wait. Because there's evidence hidden in plain sight. When Cipher said, "Every god demands sacrifice," it wasn't poetic. It was foreshadowing. And who better to sacrifice than the sister who can see the future? Annabeth's existence is the only variable Cipher can't control. She can predict him. She can expose him. So how do you stop that? You merge her with Marie. Two halves of one creation, foresight and blood. Imagine that final frame: Marie opens her eyes, and they glow with Annabeth's reflection. The two sisters fused, prophecy and power, past and present, creator and destroyer. And somewhere, Cipher whispers, "Welcome to godhood." Quick question for you. If you had Marie's powers for one day, but every time you use them, you'd feel the pain of everyone you saved, would you still use them? Or would you stop before becoming the very monster you feared? Tell me in the comments. I read every single one. This story isn't about blood. It's about fate, and what happens when fate fights back. And that's why Episode 7's opening isn't just a setup. It's a warning for Episode 8, the collision of destiny. Annabeth saw the end, but she didn't understand it. Marie's death isn't the finale. It's the evolution of power itself. And if the show's creators are as bold as they seem, next episode won't just reveal a fight. It'll reveal a new god being born. So when you rewatch that scene, the floating blood, the silence, the open eyes, don't ask, what killed Marie? Ask instead, what woke her up? If you strip away the glossy vault lighting and the Dean Cypher mystique, the truth hits like a gut punch. Cypher was never real. He wasn't some genius villain pulling strings behind the scenes. He was Doug. Just Doug. A regular guy with a cat named Buster, a beat-up red Honda Civic, and a life that no one really noticed. And that's exactly why Thomas Godolkin chose him. Because Doug was invisible. Because Doug was disposable. Because Doug was the perfect mask for a monster who could wear people like gloves. The show's been hinting at this for weeks. Marie kept saying Cypher's blood didn't have compound V. Whatever he was doing to people didn't feel like a soup to her. Then inside the arena, Cypher somehow commanded Jordan to attack Marie with a single thought. That told us two things at once. The body wasn't powered, but the mind behind it absolutely was. That mismatch, human vitals, god-level control, only makes sense if the real power was somewhere else. And when the mask finally drops, everything clicks. Doug wasn't the villain. He was the vessel. The voice, the puppet. The mask for Thomas Godolkin. The burned, half-mummified founder we glimpsed in that tank. He's been the puppeteer all along, speaking through Doug's mouth. Running Godolkin University like a grim marionette show. Mary thought she was healing a man who could help bring Cypher down. But healing him was lighting the fuse, so where did Doug come from? From the margins. He wasn't a secret lab kid or a washed-up superhero. He was just a man, living paycheck to paycheck, sleeping in his car after losing his job. A ghost in plain sight. And that's exactly why Godolkin picked him. If you're trying to control the world from the shadows, you don't pick someone famous. You pick someone forgettable. No compound V in his blood. No history with the Seven. Nothing that would trigger Vault's alarms or Marie's senses. Doug was a perfect zero. A body that meant nothing until a monster decided to write himself through it. Doug became the public mask, the dean, who could stand on stage, shake hands, and preach survival of the fittest. All while the real Godolkin, burned, broken, but very much alive, whispered every word into his mind. Cypher's lessons about pain making you stronger weren't teaching tools. They were programming commands. Every seminar, every ranking challenge, every so-called optimization test was conditioning the students, turning Godolkin University into a live experiment. Marie, Jordan, Andrew, they thought they were becoming heroes. But in reality, they were being tested for one thing: who would survive Godolkin's purge. That's the cruel beauty of it. Doug wasn't chosen for who he was. He was chosen because he could disappear. Because no one would notice the body that the monster hid. Project Odessa. It started as a dream, Thomas Godolkin's dream, to build the perfect generation of Supes. But like every dream in this world, it rotted from the inside. The files tell us almost everyone failed, except two. Homelander and Marie Moreau. That's the scale we're talking about. Odessa wasn't a school project. It was doctrine. A belief that humanity could be rewritten through pain, power, and precision. And when the lab explosion burned Godolkin alive, everyone thought it ended there. But he didn't die. He adapted. He learned that flesh could fail, but minds could move. That's when he found Doug. A body with no power, no profile, and no voice, the perfect vessel. Inside Doug, Godolkin rebuilt Odessa. Not in a lab, but in a lecture hall. Every ranking board. Every student competition. It wasn't just training. It was sorting. Filtering the strong from the weak. He wasn't teaching heroes. He was training survivors for a new species. His species. Marie thought she was saving lives. But healing Cypher was the final step. She didn't cure the problem. She resurrected it. The man she thought she was saving was the monster who made her. The one who killed her parents. The one who turned. That's not just betrayal. That's the entire season's thesis. Power doesn't corrupt. It hides inside whoever will take it. And when you look too long for the light, sometimes